You're all okay. No problem.
Okay, great. So, welcome everyone.
Good afternoon to all.
Good afternoon.
So, thank you for joining us for today's webinar. So, FPO. Vivek, can you please mute everyone? Vivek, please mute everyone.
I am muted, everyone, but panelists, please do not unmute yourself unless it's your turn.
Thank you. So, welcome once again, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, that is FPOs for Better Future. My name is Vibha Bhatia, and I will be moderator for today's session. I work for the AgroVision Foundation team, and I'm excited to be hosting this session today. So this informative webinar is organized by AgroVision Foundation and AgroSpectrum. So as we all know that in a bid to double the farmers' income by 2022, the government of India is continuously looking for ways to boost agriculture production, food processing and marketing avenues through the integration of latest technologies and innovations, thus creating a huge scope for farmer producers organizations in the country. So farmer producer organizations can play a major role in increasing farmers' income, give stability to agrarian community, and better future to Indian agriculture. FPOs are aimed at providing small farmers a platform to collectively tackle their challenges right from accessing various agriculture inputs to marketing their produce. However, FPO can only perform when its management system, their governance, and the capital structure are strong. So, therefore, to discuss the opportunities and challenges, provide informative on initiatives, marketing schemes, and programs available to support FPOs, and advise on the formation of an FPO and further to develop them into a robust business entity, this informative webinar has been designed. So before we get started with this, just a little announcement. E-certificates are available for this program. So participants are requested to contact the AgroVision Secretariat for the same. AgroVision email ID has already been posted on the chat window. So please attend the complete session in order to get qualified for the e-certificate. And if you have any questions during the session, please type them into the question box in your WebEx control panel, and we will be answering questions at the end of the session. If you don't get to your question then during the webinar, then we will be sure to follow up afterwards. So now I would like to kick off things by welcoming our AgroVision team. We have Mr. Ravi Boratkar. He is President AgroVision Foundation and publisher AgroSpectrum and New Food Spectrum. Dr. C.D. Mai, he is the chairman of AgroVision Advisory Committee. And we have a most distinguished speaker for the webinar today and around 900 plus registrations. So without any further ado, I would like to welcome our distinguished speakers. So we have with us today Dr. Ashok Dalwai. He is the CEO of National Rainfed Area Authority. Dr. A.D. Pathak, Director ICAR, Indian Institute of Sugarcane Research. Dr. K.S. Mahesh, Chief Financial Officer, NAB Kisan Finance Limited. Dr. Agya Tripathi, Mentor of Change, Atal Innovation. Mr. Anish Kumar is a Managing Trustee, National Association for Farmer Producers. And Mr. Vilas Shinde is a Chairman and Managing Director. C.D. Mai for his opening remarks. Dr. Mai. Dr. Mai, if you can unmute yourself.
Are you able
Dr.
to
Mai?
hear now?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yeah. So first of all, let me welcome the panel, the very most competent panel to talk on FPO. Friends, you all know that probably the dominated by only small and medium holding farmers. Actually, it is that our production system is this. It is fast production. The whole problem is that because of this small holding, actually our farmers could not really enjoy the economies of scale to invest either in mechanization, either in technology, or they are also not able to procure optimally the inputs and so on. And therefore, actually, it's a matter of fact that the activism of these producers, especially small and marginal farmers, into producer organizations had globally emerged as one of the most effective challenges in agriculture. And therefore, I think this particular concept, which the government of India has really now promoted on a very large scale, is going to pick up. We have already certain FPOs which we are already working, and I find that they are doing some very excellent job. And therefore, we want that actually now this concept to be again expanded. I'm sure that this webinar, which we are organizing from AgroVision Foundation, is going to help us in formulating and the further strategies into the program. Now, actually, as I find that basically these FPOs are basically membership-based organizations. There are a lot of differences between what we are talking about cooperatives, between what we have some collectivism, but this is a little different type, and that's why it will give a new kind of phenomenon where we can empower the farmers and their organizers, and through access, they could have better input access, they could have better access for technology and all this. So I'm sure that this webinar is going to be very useful for us, and AgroVision Foundation, therefore, on behalf of them, I would like to really welcome the panel, and not much taking time because everybody is very. I'm happy that Ashok Dalwai is here. We have Mr. Shinde is joined. We have so many people who are very competent in this field, and I'm really anxious to listen to them for this webinar. Thank you, Viva. Please continue the webinar now.
Thank you, Dr. Mai, for wonderful opening remarks. Of course, we are all very excited to hear their views on this particular webinar today. I'll open the floor with Dr. Dalwai. Sir, there was a high-level committee formed under your leadership to submit a report on doubling farmers' income, where you defined a role for an FPO. So please tell our participants about the role of FPO can help in achieving government ambitious target of doubling farmers' income by 2022. Dr. Dalwai, please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me, Dr. Vibha, now?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Yeah. Now, just one clarity. Are we going to have question answer session, or you would like me to speak? What is it like? How are you going about it?
Sir, yes, at the later part of the webinar, we'll have
All right. Okay. Fine. Yeah. Thank you. It's very nice to listen to Dr. Mai, and very nice being with all well-known co-panelists here. I had the privilege of attending the AgroVision 2 years back. It's a very well-organized, well-established farmer contact program. And we must congratulate the organizers, the management, and of course the brain and the spirit behind it, our Honorable Minister, Gadkari Saab. So thank you very much for calling me. And it's good that you picked up this particular topic on Farmer Producers Organizations. All of us realize that the entire agriculture policy of the country is now being reoriented. Government of India, over the last 6 years in particular, has been emphasizing on reformulating the policy framework in order to meet 3 primary objectives. And one of them is to recognize the farmer as a principal stakeholder and promote him as an entrepreneur. When we talk about entrepreneurship, we look at agriculture as an enterprise, and any enterprise is supposed to be sustained on the principles of profit, which only means that we should be making all efforts to organize agriculture as an agriculture business And when you do that, we will be looking at what is the volume of output based on higher productivity, and at what cost have we realized that higher productivity. That means the cost of production is extremely important. And third, of course, how efficiently is the system able to convert the agriculture produce into monetary value, and therefore the post-production becomes extremely important. So the short point is that Government of India and country as a whole would support governments, institutions, looking transforming we have to also keep in mind what has so far, particularly the last 3 years independence. And that's where the government recognizes that the technology and the followed so far have had good impacts and also simultaneously certain negative impacts. And the negative impacts include on the consumers who depend on agriculture for their nutrition, and on the ecology which actually sustains the agriculture production. So far as consumers are concerned, we are aware that India is now food sufficient in terms of carbohydrates, but certainly it is not in terms of nutrition. And today when you talk about demographic dividend, health of the people, we should be looking at an agriculture production system that is going to yield us all macro and micronutrients. And therefore, our scale of success has to change from just measuring the food grains into measuring other kinds of nutrients, including vitamins, minerals, etc. And the third aspect I was talking about ecology. Ecology, in particularly the agriculture production system, has got deteriorated as we see in terms of barrenness of land, problem soils across the country, drawdown of groundwater, and of course the soil fertility loss as reflected in lower organic carbon. So if this is the story, and we are not trying to reword agriculture policy, certainly we need new technology, new management practices. All of that has been done at what is called scales of efficiency, or operational scales of economy have been brought in. Now, where we have 141 million hectares, very vast area. We have got 60 types of soils in the country. We have got at least 20 climatic zones. And that means what we can see is everything that is there in the world in terms of agriculture production system is there in India. But then one problem that Asian countries, including India, face is the small size of the farms, where Japan or China or India, because of higher density of population, vis-a-vis the extent of land under cultivation, our agriculture is filled with large number of farmers. We have got, the last survey showed us that we have got 130 million farm households, that means 13 crore households who are cultivating this 141 million hectares. And of these, 86% is small and marginal. Marginal accounts for 65%, that means 1 hectare and less. Between 1 hectare to 2 hectares is a balance, and together they account for 86%. And only 15% of the farmers in our country are what are called middle segment or the large scale farmers. And when we talk of large scale farmers, it is nothing compared to what we know by farmers in UK or USA, where the per capita land holding size is very high. I would like to bring this particular aspect of the size of the land to your notice, only with the view that if agri-business is to be practiced, then we need to have very efficient systems of input management and output management. Now, in an agri-business where inputs increasingly are purchased from the market, unlike before when farmers were retaining their own seeds, were sustaining their own farmyard manure, today for seeds and fertilizers and pesticides and water, electricity, capital, all inputs that go into agriculture, including labor, they all come from the market. And likewise, once the harvesting is done, when we would like to integrate the marketable surplus ratios with the markets, then once again it is dependent on market. Unfortunately, given the small size of land holdings, what the problem that farmers face or the economy faces is that transaction costs, both at input level and output level, become more costly, and certainly does not promote profit, because we were saying that cost of production has to decrease. If the cost of input or the cost of marketing increases, obviously the farmers are not going to generate profits, and therefore we need to collectivize them. Now, in India, given that agriculture continues to be important, it continues to be important in terms of 48% of India's population dependent on it directly or indirectly, which means the livelihood of majority of the people in our country comes from agriculture. So we cannot take away the land from people and say that I'll corporatize that, or I'll consolidate them to large holding. Because land is recognized as one of the basic asset of the farming community, of the population of the country. So all our land reforms since 1960s are focused on distributing land to the farmer. So we can't have the reverse system of taking away land from the farmers. If you take away that land, we are depriving them of livelihood opportunities, because our industry sector, the service sector, is still not in a position to absorb the huge surplus of manpower. We therefore need to ensure that the land ownership continues. But how do we bring them together? We have tried the cooperatives. Cooperatives have been tried in this country since the since the beginning of the 20th century. Despite 100 years of experience, we have not had much success in cooperative form of farming, but we had some success in cooperative form of processing, like sugar industries, for example, or cotton industries, textile industries, oil federations. There has been some success on cooperative processing, cooperative marketing, for example, milk at National Dairy Development Board. But on the production big success. And then the experiments of China and Russia, where that collectives, it is also shown that it is not profitable to have large collectives, because when collectives of the farms under the public sector, then nobody feels it is his thing, and therefore it does not be the best. Hence, the Indian of Farmer Producers Organization, more particularly farmer producer companies, is a progressive step. So what it does is it tries to bring in the spirit and the etiquettes of a cooperative organization, so that there is merit in being together, there is unity in that strength. Simultaneously, it also builds in the individual, it protects the individual enterprise, it protects the individual ownership, so that the no farmer feels that he is encouraged, incentivized to work on his own farm. And thirdly, what it does is it brings in the professional management practices. Because when we say professional management practices, then it ensures that it does not have interference from the government into the cooperative. It also enables the professionals to manage these things, where the farmers continue to be the shareholders. So the shareholders and the professional managers will be working at tandem. The professional managers bring in operational efficiency, financial efficiency, technological inputs, and all other kinds of business plan that they're supposed to do. So in a way, the farmer producer companies, which marry the spirit of cooperatives and the flexibility of a corporate world in professional management, would be a good way for India, and that's what we are looking at. Now, to take it a little forward, now how do we ensure that this 130 million, I was telling, approximately 13 crore farm households get into farmer producers organizations? We have been trying this since 2011 trial. We started with a pilot under the SFAC to bring together the vegetable growers and the pulse growers. We have had reasonable success, but success has not been really as good as we wanted. Hence, now the government has been now focusing. In fact, our doubling farmers' income recommended that we should be able to organize as many farmers as possible into farmer producers organizations. And we're very happy that under Atmanirbhar Bharat, government is now targeting 10,000 farmer producers organizations. It could be a society, it could be a cooperative, but mostly a company. And it has also released two sets of guidelines, and these two sets of guidelines, if they're seen, you'll find that there's so much of reform compared to what we had started with in 2011. One is, of course, the policy and process guidelines for the Farmer Producers Organization that has been brought out by SFAC. And the second one is the operational guidelines that has been recently released, which puts in detail how government intends to support this. We have realized based on the last about 10 years experiment that professional management is extremely important. Local leadership is extremely important. When we talk of professional management, that means the resource institutions who are supposed to provide the backbone to mobilize the farmers and build a business plan and handhold them for 3 years, still are able to exit at a stable level. Now they are going to get greater support. We have very clearly said now that the equity participation of the government will not be a share. That means it shall not be a public sector share or a private sector share. It is only a matching grant to the shareholding that the farmers contribute. To that extent, the autonomy of the Farmer Producers Organization will continue. It is very important that we retain the autonomy of the Farmer Producer Companies so that the farmers continue to own it and through the professional management are going to operate that. And the second one is that we realize that last 10 years, the FPOs were not able to build the necessary backward and forward linkages. They had not been able to build capacities of the farmers. Hence, now it is recognized that they need greater access to institutional credit so that they're able to get collateral-free loan from the institutions and build the necessary infrastructure. When we talk about agribusiness, we are not talking about selling raw produce from the farm into the market. It has to be processed, primary processed. It has to be put on a value chain. It has to have direct marketing wherever possible. It has to have export linkages so that this intermediation happens and the farmers are able to capture long-range markets and not just local markets. Right. When we start capturing long-range markets, then we are able to capture better values for the farmers. Hence, the recognizing the importance of the infrastructure, collateral-free loan is now going to be organized, and for that sake, a credit guarantee fund is being set up. A credit guarantee fund of the size of rupees 1,500 crore, 1,000 crore guarantee fund will be created in NABARD, 500 crore size guarantee fund by the NCDC. Both of them are financial institutions that help promote agricultural infrastructure. So, government, our ministry will be contributing annually to the two credit guarantee funds. So, when you have this kind of credit guarantee fund, like the one we have for MSME, as you know, in 2003, guarantee fund for the MSME, which has enabled the entrepreneurs in the industry segment to borrow loans from the government. Likewise, now for the FPOs, this is a very good move. So let me, I think, try and close it so that others can also speak. Yeah. That under Atmanirbhar Bharat now, yeah, the farmer producers organizations are going to have a better ambience. The reason being that the new ordinance that has been brought out, one relating to the contract farming and one relating to direct trade outside the APMCs, supported by what is called Liberalizations of the Essential Commodities Act. These three, along with the New Marketing Act that is under the APLMC Act of 2017, are going to now create a competitive environment, are going to help the farmers through the farmer producers organizations to directly link to the markets at both input stage and output management stage. Now they can directly trade online platform. So this is going to be the strength. And what we aggregation. I think aggregation is the biggest weakness in our country. Though the farmers are producing market surpluses, if the volumes are low, their transaction costs are, therefore they're not able to efficiently and effectively integrate themselves to the market. But when we produce, when we establish farmer producers organization, they have an aggregation platform. The small lots of individual farmers are brought there. Their primary process asset for the quality parameters, and then they're pooled together so that the now larger pool can transact in the market at scales of economy. So likewise, they can enter into contract with the sponsored company. So I think the structural issues, I think Government of India has tackled the structural issues relating to farmers, relating to farms, relating to transaction, both at input management and output management stage. So when this kind of a liberal environment happens, supported of course, as I told you, by Essential Commodities Act, where there shall be no no cap on the quantity that can be stored, the quantity that can be transported, the quantity that can be processed. I'm sure this liberalized environment will help us come together. But
Thank you,
let me
sir.
caution that it is going to take a
Yeah.
long time, because we're aiming at 10,000. Yeah? Even when we established 10,000 FPOs, each of about 2,000 hectares, 2,000 hectares into 10,000 is about 2 million. But we're talking about 141 million. So I think people like Vilas Shinde and all were sitting here about practical examples, experience of organizing small and marginal farmers in arid zones of Nashik. And there are many people like that. For example, Action for Social Advancement in Bihar and Madhya Pradesh. Excellent work they have done. They brought 30,000 farmers through 16 FPOs together. So we have got good examples. Now they have to tell us how to scale it up. Okay, and as an idea, it must sink into the people. So I think the farmers leaders, financial institutions, research institutions, and opinion makers like you and the promoters like you, if all of us come together, I'm sure we will be able to take it forward, and that's the only way forward, I think. So thank you very much, and I will look forward to listening to others. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your insights and defining the complete ecosystem of FPOs. And I totally agree when you say idea has to sink into the system. So now I'll go and ask Mr. Mahesh. He's the CFO of NAB Kisan. So, Mr. Mahesh, if you could unmute yourself.
Yeah, okay. I've unmuted myself.
We are talking about Dalwise, spoke about the complete ecosystem, and of course, to run that ecosystem, we also need finance. So, are there any specific support schemes for financing FPOs? So, what are the checkpoints FPOs should confirm from early approval for the finance proposal?
I would like to put this in two different ways. One is what are the eligibility criteria?
Mr. Mahesh, can you hear me?
For just getting a finance. I would know. So, is the audio okay? Hello.
Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. It's okay.
So I would put it from two different angles. One is, how do they become eligible to get a loan from a finance institution? Now I would talk from my own institution's perspective, like NAB Kisan Finance. So to become eligible, what we have certain basic eligibility criteria for any FPO to get a finance from us. It would be like this: at least they should be in existence for 6 months. For example, we are in July. At least they should have been incorporated before December last year. So at least 6 months of existence. They should have at least one operational balance sheet. So 6 months, in this case, we'll have one balance sheet of 31st March 2020. So one operational balance sheet at least, so that we know what are the finances like, what they have done, if they have done in business, or that type of information we'll get from that. Second thing is, they should have at least a share capital of 2 lakh, because any banker, any financial institution will always look at what is the own stake the FPO is going to put in when we finance. So we are looking at least to start with, because any FPO who comes into business will not be able to do business right away at a very big scale. So what we are looking at is at least a 2 lakh share capital with a positive net worth, because again, whatever funding is being done is in terms of number of times of your net worth. So some amount of net worth has to be there. So we have, what we are looking is at positive net worth with 2 lakh rupees share capital at the minimum. And they should not have defaulted to any organization. We basically a default on an NPA overdue case with another bank or financial institution is going to be a red alert for us also. So we look at those FPOs who have not defaulted to any organization, and also they comply to all the legal requirements and other statutory requirements. The statutory requirements, like they should have be filing all the returns to registered companies, like annual filing, KYC, all those things they should be filing it. They should also have the requisite licenses if they have got a mandi license or a pesticide or a fertilizer dealing, those licenses, GST number wherever required. All those things should be in place, because any of those things is a must for doing any business. So that has to be there. We also require a full-time CEO. Dalvaiji was talking about the professionalism. So we also look at somebody who can professionally manage the whole FPO. So a CEO who is little professional and who can take away the board of directors, their ideas. There could be leaders within the board of directors, but ultimately those leadership has to be converted into a professional organization. So we require a full-time CEO in place at the FPO. they should have a business plan, at least what they are going to do for the next 1 to 3 years. If it is a short-term loan which they're expecting, at least for the duration of the loan, they should have a business plan. If I'm looking at a 3-year loan, I should have a business plan for at least 3 years, what I'm going to do. So that type of business plan is required. Then also they should comply with all the KYC and anti-money laundering, all those norms which are specifically required. And we, apart from that, we also look at some of the internal rating. We have internal rating tool within NAPKISAN. We assess each of those FPOs based on various parameters like governance, management, their financial structure, what are the infrastructure facilities the FPO has got, so their sustainability, all those aspects we take into account. And we rate them depending on where they score. We will take only the A and B rated FPOs, immediate financing. The C and D grades can also be taken into financing, probably after a little bit of capacity building. These are the eligibility criteria which we generally prescribe for any FPO to come into our fold for financing. In addition, once they become eligible, now the process of actually getting a loan application and getting sanctioned happens. So there are certain checkpoints which normally we would look at. We have our website www.napkisan.org where the loan application format for an FPO is clearly put. So this application, along with a checklist of documents, what are the minimum documents they have to give along with the application was also prescribed there. So once we get a fully filled up application with all the requisite documents as per the checklist, probably we don't require anything else to be asked from them. The problem comes is most of the cases the information is not complete or the documents are not being submitted in total. So we need to correspond with them. That takes a lot of time. If the complete checklist is taken care of, I think that is the first point which any FPO would look at, and that is there available in our website. Second thing is a realistic business plan. This is the area where most of the FPOs find it difficult. See, they have a lot of areas of doing business. They go for bulk input supply. They procure in bulk and supply to the member farmers. They can go for customizing of farm machinery. They can also do output procurement. Whatever commodity that is being produced, they can procure, collect. Then they may sell raw. Of course, Dalvaiji was telling that raw is not what is expected from the FPOs. Actually, they should store, they can process, add value, exports, marketing. All those things are the possible business areas for any FPO. One of the area is also on lending. Some of the FPOs do on lending, which of course we are not very keen because FPOs should not be a financial intermediary. They are supposed to be more of aggregator and collective effort on the produce front they want to do. So they should not be a financial intermediary. So this is another important aspect. Once they have a clear business plan, probably most of the problems are resolved. Then you have to have a credit score because many of the FPOs could have defaulted to a previous organization. Some of the directors could have been in default. So if the FPO themselves check whether the credit score, like the directors are okay, whether the credit score are good, then probably that time which we based on that also can be avoided. And if at all any clarifications, anything is required further, if they can make a quick report to us, that will really help us in hastening the process of sanction. We have sanctioned proposals in 3 to 6 days time also. It's possible. So we have kept a benchmark at turnaround time about 14 days. Provided everything is available with us, we can do it.
Well, thank you, Maheshji, for explaining the process. Is there anything else that you want to add to it? I'm sorry, I think I just...
No. Regarding the checkpoints, I think I'm through.
Okay, great. The steps to our participants, and I'm sure if they have any query, they'll reach out to your organization.
Few issues which we face as a banker. That also I would not share with all the FPOs because once these are addressed, the financing becomes much more easier. The first one is the low capital base of FPO. So any FPO today, if you look at, they will have anywhere between 100 to 1,000 members, each contributing about 1,000 rupees share capital. So we would like to have 1 lakh to 10 lakh as a share capital base of any FPO, which is a small amount compared to the business they will be doing. So any funding agency would look at that as a key component. What is the share capital base which the FPO has got? Over and above, some of them would have made losses because in initial years they would have incurred a lot of administrative expenses, which would have eroded the share capital also. So that is another concern for most of the lenders. And third thing is absence of credit history. See, NAPKISAN has lent more than 550 FPOs in the past 3-4 years. So if you look at most of the FPOs, we were the first lender to all these FPOs. So the absence of credit history is one area which many commercial banks would look at with a fault. They will say they don't have any credit history in the past. So how do we rely on them? So that is one area. Of course, we are stepping in and financing many of the FPOs. Many of the FPOs have taken funding from us and they have moved on to the commercial banks and others and for want of higher amount of funds at a lower cost. Then I told you about business plan. Many of them have a business plan, but they do not have a contingency planning. See, for example, I'll tell you example in Karnataka. For example, in Karnataka, some of the people have gone in for maize cultivation. There is a fall armyworm infestation. They don't know what to do. There are some people have gone for millet production. There is no rain. Absolutely, they failed crop. So what is the contingency planning they've got? They don't have anything as of today. So always, whenever they go for a business plan, they should also plan for if this is not happening, what else I will do with it. That is to be there. Then management issues. See, many of the FPOs, if you look at, there will be one leader or a visionary director who will be taking charge and running the FPO. To start with, it is absolutely fine. But as you go as a commercial organization, naturally we expect the second line to be developed. The other directors, the CEO also have to step in and then do it. It should not be a one-man show. We have seen few cases in Kerala, for example. There are some few one-man run FPOs. When that man is not in a position to contribute, then the whole FPO suffers. So that should not happen. And hand-holding support. See, initially, like many of the FPOs supported or like you have some NGO or some capacity community-based organization who is giving them initial hand-holding support for 2 to 3 years. Suddenly, after 3 years, then the organization takes backstep. They find it little difficult to manage on their own. So this has to be really taken care because the molding and the hand-holding for the first 3 years should be in such a way that there is smooth exit and the FPO doesn't face any problem subsequently. And a lot of compliances are required. That also requires a lot of hand-holding support. Today, like we have seen some cases in Karnataka where the government of India has issued penalties saying that you have not filed your returns, you have not filed your audited balance sheets. So such cases, compliance, many of the FPOs may not be aware of. So that type of awareness is also required. And there are some external factors. Recently, like some FPO in Karnataka, they were into poultry input production. The bird flu incidents followed by COVID. So the poultry industry came down. At the same time, maize price also came down. When the maize price came down, this FPO wanted to procure maize. But the question is, how long you will procure and keep? You are having inventory cost. How long you will procure and keep? Because tomorrow the poultry industry may require the input. But the cost of carrying inventory is also an issue. So such type of issues, there's a little lack of clarity from the FPOs also. In addition, we have to focus these issues. There are a lot of support schemes available from various agencies. You know, just now, Dalwai Sahib had talked about this 10,000 FPOs where NABARD, NCDC and SFAC will also be stepping in and doing the formation, nurturing of these FPOs. We have already EPD grant support available from SFAC, credit guarantee support available from SFAC. Tamil Nadu government has taken a very pioneering step. If you look at, they have come out with 3 schemes for FPO promotion. They have come with what is called a mezzanine capital assistance, which will be a sort of a 5-year bullet NCD, non-convertible debenture, where the farmers would get at least 10 lakh rupees as a corpus, which will augment their corpus and they will be able to do business at a larger scale. They have also come up with the credit guarantee scheme, and they also have looked at a sort of revolving fund where the cost of credit has been substantially reduced. What the FPO will get is something around 2/3 of the market rate. These are some of the pioneering steps Tamil Nadu government has taken. In association with NAPKISAN, these schemes will be implemented. There are a lot of grant support available in Tamil Nadu, like Mission for Sustainable Dryland Agriculture. Government is coming with a lot of support. They are also supporting collective farming, where the farmer producer groups are given 5 lakh rupees grant. So a lot of support is coming. Like you look at Telangana government under the Integrated Tribal Development Area. The Tribal Development Corporation of Telangana has been supporting all the tribal FPOs with almost up to 60 lakh of infrastructure in the form of customizing, cold storages, and the value addition centers. So a lot of support is currently available. Odisha, we have a credit guarantee scheme. Karnataka government gives a lot of grants for the horticulture farmer producer companies. So there are good number of government support available for the FPOs. It is only the time that the FPOs have a little bit of understanding and take all these facilities in the right spirit, and definitely there is a excellent scope for these FPOs to flourish in the years to come.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing such detailed information about the financing options available to our participants. So I would appreciate if you could leave your email address in the chat window because you'll be leaving soon for another webinar. So in
Sure.
case you have questions, then they can reach out to you. So
Sure.
thank you once again. So now I'll move on to Dr. Pathak. So Dr. Pathak, keeping the contingency caused by the outbreak of COVID-19 in the mind, the Krishi Vigyan Kendra and your institute, that is IISR, has introduced a Farmers Producers Organization for supplying the fresh fruit and vegetables to the urbanites in Lucknow. So would you please tell us more about this initiative and objective behind the scenes?
Okay. Thank you. And I express my thanks to AgroVision for giving me this opportunity that our institute, the Indian Institute of Sugarcane Research, we are having two KVKs and our strong research wing. We are working in three ways at different places.
Mhm.
One, there were there we were collecting information and technologically supporting these FPOs for higher productivity and of the farmers. In that, we are having one Krishi Vigyan Kendra in Lucknow. In Lucknow, we are having as such 16 FPOs, but I had selected 3 FPOs. And during the lockdown period, we were not getting that urban people, they were not getting fresh fruits and vegetables. Sensitized the FPOs. I sensitized and took them under umbrella, and the state government supported giving access to vehicles, and we started selling the fruits and vegetables to urban people. In that, one benefit was there that number of middlemen were almost nil. In that, what that farmers started, and 2-3 farmers were nominated by their group, and they brought vegetables to city, and through electronic mode that through that pass and ATM cards we were collecting money and giving them fresh vegetables. In that, one benefit was there that our urban people, they were getting fresh fruits and vegetables, and farmers were getting more profit because number of middlemen were less. Only farmers were directly bringing that fruits and vegetable by vehicle, and we organized that. We arranged vehicle passes during that period, and farmers were benefited out of that. In addition, we did one more thing. It was not in relation to COVID-19. In Bihar, East Champaran district, we are having, it was sugarcane growing area, but there were no sugar mill. Then what we did that jaggery, quality jaggery units we have established through different sectors. We have selected 3 FPOs in East Champaran district. It was in Chakia, Areraj, and different places. And what we did, finance we arranged through NSC, their CSR fund, and technology we had given, and farmers had given their own sugarcane. Normally, sugarcane is sold at the rate of 300 or so per quintal. But when jaggery was made and they sold jaggery, that FPO sold jaggery at the rate of 100 rupees per kg, and they had given benefit to farmers more than 450 rupees per quintal to farmers for this sugarcane price. It was more price, everybody was benefited, and organic jaggery with the state-of-art laboratory, that jaggery unit we have established, and farmers are getting benefit, FPO is getting benefit, and other people like whosoever are consuming, they are getting the right material. That organic jaggery they are getting with lesser price. Such efforts have been made by ISR, and FPOs are one component. It's really playing vital role in uplifting the economic condition of farmers. But one more thing, since we are working in sugarcane sector. In that we have different different way of working. The sugar industries are there, although they don't have FPO. But sugar industry, they organize it, they collect, and every sector work in PPP mode, that public-private partnership mode. We have established one plan for doubling the farmers' income in Uttar Pradesh. The DCM Sri Ram group we selected, and they had given us 8 villages and about 4,096 farmers we selected in 3 years. We got results that profitability, that income has gone up to 1.9 times, which we are planning for doubling the. In that, we had technical interventions for agrotechnique, that labeling the farm, intercrop, and different. And farmers hub, we have made the hub for agro produce infused sugar industry. With that, farmers got much benefit out of this. And I had a lot of material to discuss, but few things I highlighted that during COVID-19, our efforts in Lucknow district and in 4 or 5 districts of Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, again, we are working for doubling that, increasing the farmers' income. And with this, I would like to stop my talk, and I thank AgroVision for this wonderful opportunity. At least I am learning from our Dalwai sir and Dr. Mai sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your inputs. Now I'll go on to Dr. Tripathi. So, Dr. Tripathi, I was reading a lot of your articles. You have written articles about, FPO's role, scope, and then their opportunities and challenges. And then the latest I come across was about the way forward to succeed for FPOs.
Right. Right.
Yes. So, so what is your, I'm sorry. So my question to you, so my question is, what is your advice on use of technology and innovation in FPO? And I mean to say how FPO can play a bigger role in taking technology and innovation to the grassroots level. So what is the role that they can play? What is the advice that you have for them?
Right. So let me say this. Let me start with it. That for better planning needs data.
Of course.
We are saying that yes, government is planning something, government is putting something on paper. All that is if it is backed up by data, or if it is backed up by any kind of analysis which is coming through data, I think it helps in a much better way for any FPO to succeed. When we are talking about using technology in FPOs, I have seen 2-3 examples. Like there is an organization called eFresh and Vritti and then Samunati. These are the organizations which are using technology at the upfront level and FPOs in a different way. How are they working with FPOs? They use technology and gather data at 3 different levels. They gather data at the level of FPOs, then at the level of farmers, and then the farm level. And then they synchronize with the real-time data which is related to weather, the topology of that particular area, the pest which is in that particular area, and then synchronizing all this data, they use AI, the artificial intelligence, and they can help people and the farmers to understand that what is going to be the yield. And once you get that yield, you are also able to understand that, okay, this is going to be my income, which will help the financial companies to get into the system and then help you in credit disbursement. So this all is linked. So right now, whatever Dr. Dalwai said, that Dr. Dalwai said, and Dr. Mahesh, he also said that yes, people are coming to us, FPOs are coming to us, but in many cases they are not able to release the loans, they are not able to disburse. And the main reason was that these FPOs do not know how to represent their data, whether they are collecting that data correctly or not. That is all issue. Because I am related to field, so many examples where farmer producer organizations, it is like on papers, yes, you have to be having some kind of registers. They are producing it manually. They are using Excel sheet for their inventory and all. But when you ask them about, do you have any kind of software? Is this data being used every quarter or every month? Is there someone who uses this data? The answer is no. They are doing it just for the audit purpose. So the problem is that the farmers, the farmer producer organizations, and the head, the chairman, secretary, everyone, they exactly do not know why are they collecting this data. So the real challenge, as Dr. Dalwai said, yes, they need to be facilitated. They need to realize that why this technology is important and how this technology is going to help them in terms of data collection and then analyzing this data so that it will again help them in future. So if you recently I've seen two great example. There is a Bangalore-based organization which is supported by UNDP. That name is so Mindtree is working with the organization in South India that is called Vritti. And what they are doing is they are creating a technology value chain for the FPO, where they the onboarding of FPOs, then onboarding of the farmers' data, and then collecting all that data and then using the GIS application and telling them that, okay, the weather is going to be like this. Farmers are getting a real-time data. They are getting SMS alert. That they are also being able to go into the NCT where they are able to purchase their futures and they are able to mitigate their risk. So now, if you ask me that how is technology going to help them, have to have rise above two talks. One is competency and another one is capital. And riding one by one will not work. I'm very sure about that. I think Dr. Darwai can add to this. But telling them that, okay, now farmers should act or FPOs should act as a business entity, that is also something very futuristic and something which we are pressurizing them to handle. But how much and till what point we can do? I think this is the best time if you see in our economy because most of because of COVID, most of the laborers and farmers, agrarian society, everybody is at home right now. And I think this is the best time we can use them there. We should not only talk about agriculture, maybe we can also talk about the producer groups, the producer companies, which is again going to add something for the economy. So it is not only about the farmer enterprises, it can also be non-farm enterprises, but the kind of capacity development, the kind of capacity building exercises, I think that is going to be the need of our next thing. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your insights. And I'm sure a lot of people will understand the importance of technology and innovation in order to set up a successful FPO. Of course, we have a successful story with us today, so we will be talking to Mr. Vilas Shinde later in the program. So now my next question is to Mr. Anish Kumarji. Anishji, you are the managing trustee of NAFPO. So how do you support the formation of an FPO and how do you provide the hand-holding support?
Hi, thank you very much, Vivaji, and the organizers, AgroVision and AgroSpectrum. So I must compliment you that you have brought together the entire ecosystem of FPOs, right from Dalwai Sahab, who in some ways had been the force behind his. Am I audible?
Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So Dalwai Sahab has been the force behind the 10K FPO program, and we had Mahesh from Kisan and Tripathi ji, laying out the basic contours of. So the way I would, structure my conversation, before I come to NAFPO, I would like to, state two other associations, and I'll bring insights from those associations. One is the work I did with poultry cooperatives and producer companies. It's about 28 odd women-only poultry cooperatives and producer companies. They are organized across. They're the largest producers in Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, and in other states, Maharashtra, some they are present across about 14,000 odd women with 700 odd crore. The other is a new initiative we have just put together with the Ministry of Rural Development called Foundation for Development of Rural Value Chains. This is looking at launching under NRLM, and it is led by the National Rural Livelihood Mission, that is NRLM. Large size producer companies, and it builds from Dalwai Sahab, your report. And I must say that it is a must read for anyone who is interested in transforming agriculture in India. The value-led enterprises and demand-driven enterprises, that's what the Foundation for Development of Rural Value Chains is structured. today, why is FPO becoming important? We have the Atmanirbhar package, and I was talked about the contracts, trade outside market yard, repealing of ECA. So all this together creates a condition for the 13 crore farmers. 86% is small marginal. I would also say among that large section, about 5-6 crores is what is into surplus production, and you have sharecroppers, lease farmers, women farmers who would not have title on land. So that is another segment which is looking to aggregate in the new format of FPOs and looking really forward to integrating with the market with the new reform measures announced. So the way we have looked at FPO and this association, 2002, the Producer Company Act came, and after that we had set up a couple of producer companies. And as Dalvaisa was saying, in 2010 so now it's about 10 years when SFAC started promoting in a structured manner FPOs with a framework for promoting FPOs involving resource institutions, and the learnings from that have been brought into the new guidelines. So the way we have looked at, in NAFPO is to, if I was to say what we are looking at NAFPO is to become, in some ways, the voice of the FPO community, and in some ways, it is a multi-stakeholder platform where we have the FPOs and the state-level federations. Then we have market players, we have financing institutions. The idea is to both promote awareness and to bring attention of these stakeholders to engage with the FPO ecosystem. And we have been, in one of our focus engagement has been to become both the voice and create a space for engagement of the FPO with the available schemes. So now before this 10K FPO, there were available, programs, various bilateral programs funded by World Bank, DFIDs of the world, and then you had various SPAC had a program, NABARD had a program. So we have been trying to see how we could leverage the available opportunities for FPOs. That is one. So we do that with regional consultations. There is a outreach with our member base, which extends to about 5,000 odd FPOs. Then we have the second part of our engagement has been to bring in partnerships to sort of say solving the knowns. So we have a partnership with an agency called IFHT. They have been one of the early pioneers in FPO incubation space. So we have a partnership with them, and we offer together with IFHT, incubation for FPOs, preparing their business plan. A lot of my fellow panelists talked about the challenges with business plans. So that is one. The second is a partnership with Invest India and EquiSat, where we are bringing technologies relevant again to the farmers, particularly in context of aggregation opportunities. So this partnership, again, we are extending that access to the member FPOs. The third segment is the challenges. The two challenges that you had laid out, Vivaji, one is governance, the other capital structure. In the governance, you see the company. So if we were, so now in the 10K FPO, you also talk of cooperatives, but if we were to restrict only to the companies, you look at, there is a provision for expert directors to come on board. It could become akin to the independent directors that you have in companies. And there is a challenge given the structure of FPOs where you have a promoter and you have, public funds getting into organizing the FPO. If we look at the director's role and more as independent directors as you have in companies, it will strengthen the governance structure. So we are trying to build a pool of independent directors for FPOs. That is one we are in midst of a partnership with Institute of Directors there. Then the other challenge is the human resource. And some of us have talked about the challenge on the capacities available with the FPOs, the managerial capacities. We are trying to create a marketplace for FPO human resources. So one could, we would train, equip them, and make them available for the FPOs to contract them on their own. So we are trying to build that. The second is creating innovative products. So one of our members is Samunati, where we are trying to build the kind of things that you said, the mezzanine finance, the Tamil Nadu experience there. And then again, working with few states to look at how the financing issues of the FPOs could be solved. So these are some of the things that we do at NAFPO. And if I have a little bit of time, Vivaji, I would like to highlight some issues, some areas for work, not so much as issues with the 10K FPO operational guidelines. Mr. Dalwai is here, so I thought let me place it with him.
Sure.
So, sir, there are few areas. So, in the sense that it is like a transformative opportunity for the FPO community. And you have laid out the NPA, IA, CBO. I was just wondering, just as cooperatives after 904 had the McClellan Committee, which in 1914 looked at the various challenges, particularly on the compliance side. I think something like this. Today we have got about 7,000 odd FPOs. And if we were to look at where they are, we talked about their equity base, capital adequacy, challenges with the management. There are challenges with their compliances also. If there was some assessment of that, and if we can look at how do we unblock some of those issues, that would be very useful. The NPA, given the magnitude, 10K FPOs, again, we are looking at anything. If crore also, and turnover, we are looking at each FPO, so 10,000 odd crores. So entity which integrates effort across this turnover of 10,000 crores with a very distributed, we are looking at small marginal farmers, women farmers, distributed manner. Can we look at a structure which decentralizes the NPMA? The implementing organizations, you have SFAC, NCDC, and NABARD right now. Can we look at some other set of players, particularly if one were to talk about some private sector to come in? End of the day, as you have laid out in the report, you have emphasized on secondary agriculture, value-led enterprises, export and demand-driven. So unless we get a play for private sector, a program like PPID could be, a framework both for IA and CBBO could be a segue which will allow a lot of opportunities. And there is, a number of, so we would share with you detailed guidelines. And one response to the detailed guidelines, we have been at NAFPO been looking at the CBBO as a structure. So I was very heartening to hear KVK, which is one of the designated CBBO in the new guidelines, to look at the CBBO, because that's the crux of the program lies with the CBBO. And if we could look at building from the past experiences, both with the SFAC and civil society and the various programs, bilateral funded programs that has happened, to build a very coherent and a cogent approach to induct CBOs and create a performance metrics for them. So that's what Vivaji, I would place it.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your insights again and perspective on the same. Now I would move on to Mr. Vilas Shinde. Shinde Saab, you have a success story here. So I would like to hear from you that what is your success mantra to bring Shahadri farms at the current stage, and what is your advice to newcomers who wish to start FPO? In fact, we have some ladies also, joined in, and they want to know how a woman can also start an FPO. So if you have anything to say to them also, please feel free to, share your advice. Plus, share your success mantra with us first.
Good afternoon to all of you. Respected Dalwai sir, respected Mai sir, and all dignitaries and respected panelists here. First of all, thank you for your invitation. Most of the speakers, they already put light on all the major challenges and also the prospect of Farmer Producer Company. I will specifically talk about Sahyadri journey and also the learnings of Sahyadri in last 10 years. I think all these programs, Farmer Producer Company, which are promoted by government agencies, whether it is the central government agencies or the state government agencies, I think that the main thing is that they are considering farmer as a beneficiary, and also they are expecting that farmer will take his proactive role in all producer company movement. But that is not actually happening. Most of the time, farmers, they feel that this is a government program, and definitely then it is the government's responsibility to make it successful. At Sahyadri, we clearly understand that if a farmer will realize that Farmer Producer Company or Farmer Producer Organization is their need, and for that they should take their own initiative and then they could expect the government support definitely, but in the form of policy framework or in the form of basic infrastructure, in the form of international trade related issues, definitely government support they should expect. But the day-to-day challenges or the farmer producer to make the farmer producer company successful is their own initiative. They should be their own initiative. It should be their own objective. At Sahyadri, we did the same thing. When Sahyadri Farmer Producer Company's concept we thought in 2010, that day actually we were facing a lot of challenges in grape business. In the 2010, we face a big issue in Europe market for our grape trade. And that time we realized that we need a strong organization, we need a strong platform, and also the sustainable organization where we could have capacity to solve all our challenges, specifically on the international trade side. In Sahyadri is basically formed by the grape growers, Nasik surrounding areas, grape growers, they came together and this organization is created. And in grape business, you are all aware that grape is the only commodity in horticulture which is actually going in Europe market, and from the farmer to the supermarket, this value chain is created in last 20 years with the effort of farmers and also government agencies from APEDA, Yanasi Grapes, State Agriculture Department, then the grower organization. So with their all effort, this value chain from farmer to the European supermarket is has created. But we are facing a lot of challenges in competition side. So grape along with India, South Africa, Chile, they are the major competitor in Europe market. And this thought that though we are a small farmer, we are just 1 hectare land holding farmers, but now we are competing in the global market with the big size farmers from Chile, South Africa, or from the Spain, Italy, California. We have to survive, we have to actually sustain in this competition, and for that we need a proper strategy how we can fight and how we could succeed in this competition. And through that, then this farmer producer company concept came, because in competition you need to be improve on all sides, whether it is a technology side, whether it is on the infrastructure side, whether it is on the quality side, whether it is on the productivity side. I think in all aspects we should now we should be at par with the international standards and with the other international farmers capacity. So with this thought, when Sahyadri started his journey, we kept our some vision that in 2015 where we want to reach, in 2020 where we want to reach, and with this proper vision and with the proper strategy for creating the capital, creating the need-based infrastructure, then the proper use of technologies. So all this success has happened in last 10 years. I think in all this journey, what we understand that why farmer producer company is required. To create a farmer producer company is not our actually vision, or it's not actually our target. Our target is to create value chains, integrated cross specific value chain is our actually a target for making the farming successful or making the farming profitable for a small and marginal farmers level. I think this integrated cross specific value chain is our actually target, where farmer is getting all support in all his challenges from seed to plate, whatever the challenges he's facing. For that, creating a value chain is actually our target. And this to achieve this target, farmer producer company is a vehicle. So if these value chains are owned by farmer, then definitely there will be a real changing farmer's life, and also farmer will get the real value in the whatever the value creating the value chain. And that's why farmer producer company, this vehicle is required. And if we want to make this value chain successful, the farmer producer company vehicle should be operated by professional people with the proper vision, with the proper integrity, and with the proper capability. I think this is the actually area where we need to focus. That farmer producer company will succeed if there is a right leadership, if the mindset of the directors, mindset of the senior management of farmer producer company is aligned with the international customers' expectations, and whatever the if they could understand the real challenges of the agriculture business. Now each and every farmer we need to treat as a entrepreneur, as an agro entrepreneur, and each and every farm we need to treat as a business, whether it is a small size or a big size, but it is actually now a business. And to make this business successful, We need all this integrated valuation approach, the ecosystem. And if it is owned by farmer, then real change will happen. That's why farmer producer company concept is required. So this thought actually it should percolate in the farmer leaders level, new agriculture graduates who are coming in this movement as prospective leaders at their level, and also at the bottom level, at the farmer level. If we put this thought properly, definitely whatever the vision government has kept, 10,000 farmer producer company, this new program or earlier farmer producer company, they will create real change in the Indian agriculture. So the seed to plate approach for every farmer producer company, they need to plan properly. I will actually give some few suggestions to my farmer producer company members who are listening this webinar. We should focus on one or two crop only instead of focusing on multiple commodities. Actually, any farmer producer company should focus on maximum one crop or maximum two crops, not more than that. At least for first 5 years, they should concentrate all their efforts with one crop or maximum two crops. And if they are giving the complete support to their farmer members on the productivity improvement side, on the quality, improve the quality standard as per the global level, then how they can reduce the cost of production, and also providing proper financial related services, and then handling all their produce in efficient manner and getting the best possible relation to their produce as per the international market value. I think on that line, if all these farm producer company will focus on the crop, definitely they will get the proper success. If you see whatever the examples I've quoted here, whether from the dairy, Amul, or some sugar factory examples, there are some successful examples in cotton also. So they are all one crop specific organizations. Whatever the farm producer companies we are now creating, they're actually the same focus we should keep, whether the specific, the cross specific, and the whatever the local advantages, the local resources they can use in efficient manner on that factor, and the market demand factor. Both they need to consider while making their business plan. Another thing is that the technology role. Everybody now clearly understand whatever the change will happen in the world, that will be only because of the technology, whether it is a digital technology, whether it is a artificial intelligence, new things, whatever coming in the different sector, they are making the real change. In agriculture also, I think the real change is going to happen because of the proper technology adoption. The most important challenge to the Indian farmer is the transparency in the agriculture trade, and from the consumer side, the important factor who is expecting is the traceability, food safety traceability, or the price transparency. So all these issues now I think we could solve because of the proper technology implementation, whether it is a blockchain related solutions or any other solutions. So there, the farmer producer company need to focus on putting the proper technology from the first day in their overall operation, and also to adopt the technology from the beginning side. In domestic market, I think the most important challenge is to get organized farming structure and also organized retail structure. So both things are equally important. Our farmers are fragmented, and same like is on the consumer side, or the retail market is fragmented. So to create the organized retail and to create the organized farming structure, both are equally important. And then the connecting the organized farmer structures with the organized retail, I think that will solve a lot of problems. On that line, already government has taken a lot of steps. The new amendments happen on that line. Definitely will create a big impact on the farming and the overall retail segment. So with all this thought, actually, if the farmer producer company will make their plans and also keep proper vision, I think definitely next 10 years there will be a big impact on the Indian agriculture side. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for sharing your wonderful story with us and some, steps and some, suggestions for the new FPOs. So now I think we are running out of time, and I'll quickly run for like few questions. So I have shortlisted a few participants here. So we'll be calling out names. So I'll just quickly, tell the names. Anukul Nagi, Dr. Kedarnath Mohanta, Mr. Biswajit Panigrahi, Mr. Anil Hatekar, and Aprajita Singh. So I'll be taking their questions. Vivek, could you please unmute Mr. Anukul Nagi?
Anupam Nagi is unmute.
Good evening,
Mr. Nagi,
everyone.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone.
Yes,
Fantastic session.
I think you have a question for Mr.
I have
Chinde.
a question. Yes, I have a question. I have two questions actually. One is, I want to know whether the exports can receive foreign funds from NGOs or companies which are situated abroad, and if so, what are the liabilities? What are the tax liabilities they have? Then that is one. Second thing, what I want to ask Vilasji is that, he's leading by example, and Sahyadri has been a very successful model. But out of the 7,000 FPOs, there are a very few who have been actually successful to that level. What are the two major reasons or two most important reasons because of which the FPOs are not as successful? The two common ones. We know there are a lot of reasons, but two major important reasons, despite of all the help from the government, all the support from the government. Thank you.
Vilasji, would you like to answer this? Mr. Shinde?
Hello.
Yes.
I think the two specific reasons, if you ask me, the first thing that Sahyadri has clearly understand that why Farmer Producer Company we are forming and what is our aim. So to create the complete seed to plate solution for our members and to make the each and every our farm as a successful business unit. So that we came from the first day that we want to make a profitable business for each and every farmer, and that's why we need to solve all our challenges. And the challenges basically from the market side, because there actually we have the major issues, and that because of that approach we created some difference. Another thing is that at Sahyadri we focus on creating our own infrastructure, on creating our own capital instead of depending on the government scheme. We focus on strengthening ourselves on our organizations level, the creating capital, creating proper infrastructure, and also the connecting to the market. I think these are the two major reasons behind Sahyadri's success.
Yep. Thank you very much. Can you now unmute Lakshmi B? Lakshmi B.
Lakshmi B is unmute.
Lakshmi ji, please introduce yourself and ask your question quickly. For Dr. Dalwai. Lakshmi ji? The question that she has for you is that the process and guidelines for release of funds to resource institutes has some flaws. Funds should be released in advance to take up activities like training, exposure, visits, etc. Currently, fund is being released at the end of the activities. I think it should be replaced the process of first invest and get returns. What do you have to say to this, Dr. Dalwai?
Yeah, I think the latest operational guidelines, their new schedule of release of money to the resource institutes has been announced there. I think that will take care of your concern. See, but one thing let me tell you, normally there are two ways of government assistance or banks. One is the front end, one is the back end. Now, front end is normally in the form of a pure grant. Always a back-ended support is going to be more successful because it then shows how interested the party is. When you say back-ended, for example, that means first you invest, show success, and then you are able to claim the release or the government support or the bank support. And in the previous question that came up, that there is a close relation between two questions. The first question was, what are the two important factors that are impeding the growth of farmer producers organization? Vilas has rightly answered that. To reiterate, one of the important reasons is leadership and commitment of the farmers. Many a time, Vilas is saying, when government offers certain support, it is looked at as well as a government program and the government money. So they are not attaching the necessary importance to the money of the program. So now when you have a back-ended support, the research institute also becomes more serious. Well, I have seen many times large number of people want to be resource institutes. They come there, many a times they're not able to mobilize the farmers or they're not able to give necessary commitment. According to me, some kind of a backended system always ensures that either the individual or the collective of the farmers or the professional body like the Resource Institute, they are giving commitment. That commitment is very important. And if the initial commitment is not there, there cannot be any growth. That initial commitment, I know Vilas' story. See, Vilas, how he was, farming a rain-fed 3 to 4 acres of land. How hard it was for him and his farmers there to make any profit. And that's how they came together. And that's how they made a success of it. So I think anything you see anywhere where the commitment is demonstrated by the farmers and the people, there you will see naturally growth. Okay. So I would only agree to this extent that government should not have any delay in releasing the money. It has to be transparent, objective, it has to be quick. Now we are adopting a PMFS system. That means it will be transparent transfer of money and there shall be no human interference. And human interference is corruption. So that we are avoiding in the new operational guide.
Absolutely. So now if you could unmute Biswajit Panigrahi. Mr. Panigrahi, please introduce yourself and ask a question. Biswajit Panigrahi. Vivek?
Unmuted Vishwajit.
Biswajit ji, please introduce yourself and ask a question. Mr. Biswajit? Okay. Now can you please unmute Mr. Manoj Kindu? Manoj Kindu, Kindo.
Manoj Kindu is unmuted.
Manoj ji, please ask a question.
That how to middleman, there is a middle eat up the profits, and by the time it goes to the end consumers it becomes but if you see that in the agro produce business also there are plenty of retailers and the middlemen who actually easily also transport the goods to the interior places also. Now they also have a very vital role to play. Now in these situations we also understand that the goods should reach to the end consumers with the minimum of price. At the same time farmers should actually profit much, but we also cannot wipe out the role of a large number of people who are engaged into this business. So how can we also think of in an inclusive way, how can we think of them also? So that's my question, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Sir, would you like to answer this, Dr. Tripathi? Dr. Tripathi? Dr. Pathak, are you online? Answer this question. Do you have any suggestion to him?
Vibha, you want to answer this?
Pathak, can you hear me?
Hello. I didn't got the question. The network was weak, so I didn't got the question.
Hello. So yes, sir. So what he was asking that there is. Yes, sir.
He was trying to see that whether the middlemen can be integrated in the FAO system. This entire thing can be integrated very well.
Exactly.
Absolutely no problem, because everybody will have a different role there. So I think that's the question is okay. But what he says is that because they are taking the material to interior and all that, so can we have integration of all those things? It is possible. That is what I would like. Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mai. So I'll take one last question now. Dr. Kedarnath Mohanta. Dr. Kedarnath. Vivek, can you unmute him?
Kedarnath ji is on mute.
Dr. Kedarnath, could you please ask a question and introduce yourself? Dr. Kedarnath?
Can ask them to write those questions.
Okay.
Suppose
So
they are
you
not
can
able
write.
to.
Absolutely, Dr. Mai. Absolutely. We have taken a note of all the questions. We will be replying to all of them with the inputs. Thank you very much. So now I would like to invite Mr. Ravi Baratkar for his closing remarks.
Well, it was indeed a very nice discussion, very meaningful, and it is clearly evident from the interest of the attendees, which are there in large number throughout the session. So first of all, let me, on behalf of AgroVision and AgroSpectrum, thank the entire panel, and particularly Dr. Ashok Dalwai for his very clear perspective about why FPOs and how FPOs can bring in the change, and how we want to progress ahead. Similarly, every distinguished panelist, I would like to thank Dr. Agneya Tripathi, Dr. A.D. Pathak, Dr. K.S. Mahesh, Dr. Anish Kumar, and also Mr. Vilas Shinde for sharing his experience. His FPO is being looked upon as a role model, and many youngsters now aspire to form an FPO and get success like him. Dr. Dalwai, as you rightly remembered, visiting AgroVision before a couple of years, we look forward to visit this year also if we are able to organize the one, because naturally we are getting more requests to add FPO as a topic for our workshops this year. There's a lot of interest by many stakeholders who are really curious, those who are recently formed the FPO or those in the process of forming the FPO, they will really like to know more about this. So certainly we look forward to having more interaction with you. So thank you so much for being with us today. I thank each one of you and also each one of the attendees for being with us. And thank you so much. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Baratkar, for your closing remarks. So I would like to just make a little announcement here about the questions. Like I said before, we have made a note of all the questions. And we will be uploading all the inputs on the website agrovisionindia.in. And I would also like to announce our next webinar, which will be on agriculture supply chain management. This will be on 31st July 2020 at 3 o'clock. And the confirmed speakers are Mr. Ganesh. Ganeshan is a chairman, Agri Finance Corporation. Dr. Ajay Veer Jakhar, Bharat Krishak Samaj. Mr. Chandrasekhar Hindu is a consultant, and Dr. R.S. Deshpande is an economist. So please stay tuned and join us for our next webinar also. Thank you very much once again, everyone. Thank you.